Welcome to another episode of FCS Delivered, our final episode of the 2024 season. But is there ever really a finish line with FCS college football? Probably not, because so much is always happening. I'm Craig Haley, along with co-host Gary Reasons, the host of this past weekend's FCS National Awards Banquet. How you doing today, Gary?
It's fantastic. It's been a great year, Craig. It's been a great season. It's really been enjoyable for me, and really we capped it off with a great national awards program this past weekend, and a lot of fun, and also the national championship game, which we're going to dive into.
No doubt. Seth, Biley, and Graham Bell are our producers for FCS Delivered. In this episode, we're going to look back on that thrilling championship week and the 2024 season. And North Dakota State, obviously the national championship with their 35-32 win over Montana State on Monday night, their 10th FCS title in 14 seasons. What are some of your takeaways from this game, Gary?
Greg, I think it came down to a ball game that, kind of shaped up as what a lot of people thought it would be. Two heavyweight football teams playing against each other. And really, it was one of those games, Craig, where we knew that both teams were very, very competitive. They were excellent in how they prepared for the game and how they performed. And offensively and defensively, it's really one of the guys was going to miss a little bit. That's the team that was going to be, struggling throughout the ball game. And it turned out to be Montana State in this one. And North Dakota State, they were consistent throughout the ball game. They took their initial drives and they put points on the board, where their defense, kept Montana State off the board early, which really kind of put them in a always trying to hunt mode and trying to catch up a little bit. So, but it was a fascinating game. It was a fun game. It held everybody till the end. But hey, North Dakota State, they got another championship. And how many is that, Craig? 11?
10. They've been there 11 times in Frisco, 10 championships in 14 seasons. Well, you're right. I mean, North Dakota State, they obviously won the first half, 21-3 at halftime. They scored on their first two possessions and never trailed in this game. And then Montana State, stormed back in the second half. 3 times they pulled within 3 points. Didn't quite make it all the way back before losing 35-32. It was just a great game, a great second half because of that comeback by the Bobcats. And obviously we had this tremendous quarterback matchup, Gary. What can you tell us about that?
I'll tell you, Cam Miller really, he played his tail off, and it started early in the ball game. He had an elite football game, throwing the football and running the football. And I think he took control, Craig, early in the game, and he didn't relent. He didn't give up. It was something that he was very consistent, and his play was excellent. He turned out to be the most valuable offensive player in the football game, and it was just a tremendous opportunity for him to play. He had 320 yards of total offense, a couple of touchdown runs, one of them long and just split the defense. We'll talk about that, and a couple of touchdown passes. So, I think that Cam Miller really shined in this football game, and deservedly so, because, he played an excellent football game, and he led this team to that victory.
Yeah, he won the most outstanding player award for the national championship game. Well-deserved. He had 320 yards of total offense, 2 touchdown passes, 2 touchdown runs, including that incredible 64-yard run where he just did a quarterback draw up the middle late in the first quarter. Nobody touched him, and he went 64 yards. Now, in a way, Tommy Mellott was he was outshined because his exploits came in the second half. He finished with more total yards, 330, and over 260 of them were in the second half. He produced 3 touchdowns via run or pass in the second half. He got them back into the game. I think one of the differences, Gary, the supporting cast. I think Cam got more out of his offensive weapons. Marty Brown, running back, our Jerry Rice Award winner. Bryce Lance had a huge game at wide receiver. You didn't quite see the same with the Montana State running backs, tight ends, wide receivers. I think that was a difference maker, Gary.
Yeah, really. And for Montana State, their lack of running game really early in the ball game with making first downs really was the difference. Scott Trey Humphrey and Adam Jones just didn't have enough opportunity to put consistent good runs together. Most of both of these teams really, if you look at it, it's just getting a matter of stops, defensive stops, and the team that did that early in the ball game was North Dakota State. Their defense was elite. They played well. They didn't let Humphrey and Jones get going, or even Malott for that instance early in the ball game. So congratulations to North Dakota State on how well they played defensively throughout the ball game. And it really kind of propelled them, Craig, to get into a position where they had enough offensive prowess to put points on the board to stay in front. And I think that is really what kind of carried them to that victory. And, the team just played exceptionally well. You talked about Bryce Lance. He has really blossomed late in this season as a number one receiver for that offense. And he is a guy that has just got a great chemistry with Cam Miller over the course of the season. And it showed in the national championship game. He really shined, as well as Marty Brown, the running back there. He did a great job running the football. And there's a lot of effusive talk about Cam Miller and his stellar play on offense. So, but the defense for North Dakota State, I think that they should really be commended, Craig, for how well they played, and especially early in the ball game, thwarting Montana State of continuing drives and allowing North Dakota State to get a lead in this ball game.
You're right, and that gave them the advantage to take a big lead. To withstand that comeback by the Bobcats. They held Montana State over 100 yards less than their pregame average, while the Bison also outperformed their rushing total. So that makes a difference, because you're taking away the bread and butter of Montana State with that defense, the Bison defense, as you mentioned. But it was also a really well played game, Gary. I mean, it was the championship game we all wanted. There was one sack, only 4 tackles for loss, no turnovers. That just shows you 2 elite programs can play at a top level and not make too many mistakes. I think that's tremendous for the fan base, Gary.
And really, there were very few penalties in the football game, too. So it was a clean game, and it was one that was won at the line of scrimmage with the elite play, and you just kind of figure it out. I think one of the biggest plays in the ball game was really – I think it was one of the mistakes of the ball game for Montana State, and that is a defensive error in their secondary of allowing Cam Miller to just sprint completely down the field, 64 yards, as you talked about, Craig, for a touchdown. It seemed to me that there was definitely an error, because the safeties both of them were covering outside over the top on their zone coverage. It was zone coverage on that play, but they were not anyone was focused in the middle of the field, and there was really not a linebacker in play at all. So that's one play that North Dakota State really got on top of Montana State, and it was a big one. And obviously Cam Miller scored a fantastic touchdown for the Bison.
We're still looking at that play and say, how did that happen? It was just so stunning when that happened. And it really deflates, a team. Give Montana State credit for being able to rebound after something like that, because that was just unbelievable that it happened. Monday Night Football, I think that lived up to what everybody wanted as well. There were good TV ratings, Gary. The stars were out. I mean, alumni everywhere for both schools. I mean, we saw Jan Stenerud over the weekend, his beloved Bobcats, and, Hunter Lipke, Trey Lance. I ran into Matt Entz, championship coach of recent years. He was there as a fan for North Dakota State. I think Monday night, the energy was in the stadium for having a nighttime game, Gary.
It was fun. It was a great environment. It was cold. It was a cold ball game, but there was not a weather issue whatsoever. There was hardly any wind in the stadium, and it felt like the teams, they just kind of were just just ready to play, and they were there. The fan bases were electric, and there were some crazies out there too. There's a few fans, Craig, that had no shirts on, and there's 4 or 5 guys there, and they had a couple little cocktails there, little beverages, keeping them warm. But that's what this fan base is. So you think they play in the North. Obviously, North Dakota State plays in the Fargo Dome. They don't play mostly outside in the cold weather. Montana State, I thought, might have had a little bit of an edge in that, because they play outside in their stadium late in the season, and maybe a little more weather battle tested, but not necessarily so. But it was a clean game, a very even game, and I think it really kind of lived up to what everybody thought it was going to be, as 2 teams that are just superb, playing well against each other. And, the high scores, I talked about that on our last week's podcast. I expected this high level of scoring, because I didn't think that the defenses were going to be able to hold out on the offensive prowess that both of these football teams displayed throughout the entire season. And it really kind of came down to that, except for Montana State not being able to get going early in the game. That was really the ball game right there.
Yeah, I think the amazing job that Tim Polasek did in his first year, 14-2. They're 51-5, North Dakota State in their playoff history since 2010. They've just blown by everybody with this dynasty. Kind of ended with South Dakota State, winning 2, but I think the Bison are back, as Coach Polasek pointed out along the way. What did that do to the stats reform FCS Top 25 poll? Of course, the Bison are number 1, Gary. It's a heavily led, Missouri Valley and Big Sky, poll. Montana State number 2, and then South Dakota State 3, South Dakota 4, UC Davis from the Big Sky 5. We got it right all year from the preseason. I think the Bison were number 2, going into the season on the poll, but I just think we did a good job all year identifying the top teams in this poll.
Yeah, congratulations to the voting panel that we have throughout the season. They did a great job, Craig, all year long, and really kind of adjusted as the season played out. And I think we've got it pretty much where it needed to be, and ended up with everybody. A lot of the playoff teams right there in line with the top half of the poll, and some other surprising teams in there as well that really made a run towards the end of the season, jumping into the poll. So I think it's going to end up there well, and it'll be discussed throughout the off season. And guess what? It's not too far to look ahead to the start of 2025, because coaches and players are already focused for how can we get better? How can we get different players and possibly different things on their team? There's a whole myriad of things to talk about across the FCS landscape. And we're just starting here for 2025.
They're all on the road to Nashville now. Gary, we're going to take a break from FCS Delivered, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the FCS National Awards Banquet. What a weekend we had in Frisco, Texas. This is FCS Delivered.
Bring rings to beach wedding.
FedEx presents Tall Tales of True Deliveries.
Just another day on the job.
We did this for love. See what we can do for your business. FedEx.
Welcome back to FCS Delivered. We're recapping a great weekend in Frisco, Texas, and of course that included the Stats Reform FCS National Awards Banquet. We had the largest turnout in the banquet's history, and we're on the 38th year of the awards. You can see the broadcast on HBCU Plus streaming service and also our YouTube channel, FCS Delivered. Gary, you were the host of the National Awards. Tell us about what we encountered all weekend.
It was a fun weekend, and it really was a great national awards show. I think that the energy in the room was really tremendous. It was pretty unique because we had not only both opposing head coaches in the national championship game in the room, but also we had both opposing quarterbacks in the national championship in the room, and both of them were finalists for the Walter Payton Award. So that kind of set the stage of really what was in the room. A lot of folks looking at the Montana State Bison, a lot of folks looking Montana State Bobcats. Then also you have North Dakota State Bison. I think there was a lot of energy in the room really because of that. And we did something unique that we had never done before, Craig. Before our banquet, I brought up a Montana State alum and also a North Dakota State alum on stage, and I talked to them before the game. It was Jan Stenerud from Montana State and also Christian Dudzik from North Dakota State, and both of them were just fantastic, being able to give a little bit of a glimpse of kind of the histories, a little bit of both of those programs, and then we went right into the banquet after that. But it was a great night, and really I think that this thing was really pretty good because of some of the award winners that our takeaway was with our Walter Payton Award. We had Cam Miller, Tommy Malott, and also Tarji Lamson as our finalists. And Cam was number 2, Tarji was number 3, and Tommy Malott, he took the award for the top offensive player there. He had a tremendous season. I think he's a very deserved winner, and I think that everyone in the room felt like that this was something that Tommy really is aspired to, and how well he played. Last year's Doris Robinson Scholar Athlete Award winner really turned it on this year, and 15-0 going into the national championship game. Tommy Mellott, proved that he had the ability to lead his team there, and he was our Walter Payton Award winner.
Yeah, Tommy, it was close. The entire top three was close in the voting. Tarji Lamson was tremendous, a third-place finisher. Tommy, they were both on our first team All-American. They were deserving. I'm glad we did that. Tommy kept winning all the national awards, and it led up to the Walter Payton Award. It was close. I do think he was the right winner. He produced the most touchdowns in the FCS this year. It was great to see Cam Miller respond with the most outstanding player of the national championship game. It was tight all year. We knew that all along. And we also had the 30th anniversary of the Buck Buchanan Award. David Walker, Central Arkansas defensive end, walked away. Tell us about his win here this year.
Well, that was a fantastic opportunity for David. David, as you said, been there three times as a finalist, and finally got the honor, and very deserved. He leaves his career pretty much as the top defensive end and all-time sack leader for Central Arkansas. Had a tremendous career, and really someone who I think stole the show, Craig. I tell you, she had been gone from our awards banquet for a couple of years. Miss Georgia Buchanan came back and celebrated with us for the 30th anniversary of the Buck Buchanan Award. She was so gracious on stage talking to the award finalists, and I even let her announce the award winner, and she did a great job with that. And I think it just grabbed the audience's attention, and she was just fantastic. What were your thoughts?
I'll tell you, Georgia Buchanan has a chemistry with everybody. The audience loves her, and she is just heartwarming. And she made it a point to point out that all three athletes there, you all walk away winners, even if you finish second or third in the voting. And we have 35 finalists overall for each of the top two awards. She made it a point to point out you're all winners, and just, you've done a great job throughout your career. Great job overall. David Walker first. TJ Moore second from Mercer, and Jeremiah Grant from Richmond third. Just a great year for the awards. Brent Vegan, our Montana State coach, won the Eddie Robinson. Jerry Rice was there to present to Marty Brown of North Dakota State, the National Freshman of the Year. The Doris Robinson Scholar Athlete, presented by FedEx, was won by Juan Velarde of North Carolina Central. And Eric Phoenix of South Carolina State, quarterback, first winner of the HBCU Plus National Player of the Year. 6 awards, great night overall for the FCS. And again, you can watch it on HBCU Plus streaming service or our FCS Delivered YouTube page. Gary, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap up the 2024 season here on FCS Delivered. Welcome back to FCS Delivered, our third and final segment of the 2024 FCS season. Gary Reasons, Craig Haley. An exceptional year, Gary. I tell you what, let's talk about what some of our favorites. I'm going to give you one, Gary, to start. Conference races. I think that gets overlooked because we always talk big picture with the national championship, and it led to North Dakota State. But this year, only one team that was picked in the 13 conference preseason polls was an outright champion. Drake won in the Pioneer League. It just shows you that it's all unpredictable. Only 3 other preseason favorites shared a title. Every other race, team came from behind. We had 5 first-year coaches win, a league championship. That included John Pope at Columbia. He led the first Ivy title since 1961. It was a shared title for Columbia. But I just think the unpredictability of the regular season really stands out when we kind of get the answer in the end that we kind of expect. And in this case, it was North Dakota State winning. What were some of your highlights this year, Gary?
Well, Craig, I think that for me, what I went through for the entire season was largely around seeing a lot of the excellence across the country with some of these programs on our FCS on-campus visits. And the takeaways that I had across the country of how these programs are run and how they're administrated To me, it's heartwarming to be able to see what these head coaches are doing and how they're instructing their players. And, we go out and we recognize the excellence, whether it's an offensive or defensive or special team or freshman player of the week or even a team of the week. And we go and recognize what they've done. But when you dig down into it, when you go on campus and you start talking to these players and talking to the coaches, you see how well these coaches are preparing these teams every single week. And to me, that's a big takeaway for me because I know the history of the FCS and understand what it is. And it's excellent level of college football. It's Division I college football, no different than any other college football program. And it's just tremendous. One of the unique stops on the FCS on campus visit that I had this year was really to East Tennessee State University. And when you think about what happened to this team, particularly in that week, they were our national team of the week that week. And really they had overcome so much adversity. If you remember back during that time, early in the fall, there was a hurricane that came through the Western Carolinas and also Tennessee, and it really kind of wreaked havoc on the mountains there. So Hurricane Helene was there, and it just took a turn through North Carolina. And what happened was their football team, East Tennessee State University, was going to play at the Citadel. So they left out and they got stranded on a bus for 16 hours. And they did not know if they were going to make it to their ultimate site because the highways were closed. They wound up spending the night in the bus. And in the morning, they didn't know if they were going to get to their destination or not. Well, Craig, they wound up getting an escort to the stadium and they got to the ball game. And those players, they asked, guys, you want to go play this game? They're all say, yeah. Coach Trey Lamb said, guys, we got a game to go win. Let's go get it. And they got it done. They won that ball game on the road against all that adversity. And when I was talking to those guys on campus about that experience, man, to me, it was just something that was really, really remarkable. And that's one big takeaway that I had for the college football season.
You went to a lot of great universities with a lot of great storylines. I mean, you went to Jackson State, and here they are, the Celebration Bowl winner under T.C. Taylor. I'm sure that was a thrill. FCS over FBS, we saw that happen a half a dozen times. That's always a thrill, Gary.
Yeah, there are. There's a lot of opportunities for FCS teams to really just plant a flag in the ground and say, hey, guys, we're just like you. We're even, Steven, and we can beat you. And it happened that, a few times this season. So, that's something that FBS teams really, they have to watch out for now because there's that. So remember, I throw that tease out there, get the scholarship level up, raise it to 85 to FCS football. And forget about it. Make everything even. I think that college football will be a lot better off instead of holding the FCS subdivision down with talent, with players. So I think there's plenty of talent out there to go across the board to bring that number up.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, they're still getting it done even without, an equal number of scholarships when they play the FBS. The playoffs, that was tremendous. I mean, we had 16 seeds in a 24-team playoff. That was the first time it's happened in a 24-team playoff. It's good to be home when you're in the playoffs. I mean, after the first round, nobody lost at home. And then the Bison, got to Frisco, and nobody does it better at a neutral site than the Bison. Anything else stand out to you this season?
Well, Craig, it was just a tremendous season, and congratulations for what you've done throughout the year. You pull all this together on the analyst and all the great storylines, and you're the pulse pretty much of the FCS. So I applaud you for creating those moments and ideas of things to look at because you've got a tremendous journalistic ability to bring the best out in the FCS. And we've had some great storylines this year, and I think they're still being written because there's a lot to talk about this spring, and we'll get into next fall in the not too distant future.
Yes. And I tell you, I always give credit to the schools, the players, the coaches, the staffs everywhere because, hey, they're making it easy on us. They are just doing a great job producing talented young student athletes. We love to see it. Gary, we've kind of reached the finish line. I mean, this is our final episode of FCS Delivered for this season, but it doesn't really end, does it?
No, it doesn't. I'm kind of mocking Juan Velarde on his celebratory Doris Robbins Scholar Athlete Award. Man, that was a takeaway for me for just to surprise him on our YouTube channel here last week and or last couple of weeks, and it's pretty fun to be able to do some unique things like that. You know, we're gonna kick some more stones, and we'll turn over some more storylines, and we'll have a lot more to come. But it's been a pleasure to be a part of this the entire season with you, Craig.
It's likewise, Gary. It's been a pleasure to watch everything you do for the FCS. Gary, we also want to thank all the behind-the-scenes work of Seth Biley and Graham Bell, your son Nick, who goes out on the on-campus trips, and, of course, the viewers and the listeners on our podcast from week to week. It's been a great year for FCS Delivered, and we look forward to talking to you again down the road. This has been FCS Delivered.